Wonder, 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 wonder.
Welcome back to Señora Vibes. I'm your host, the Alicia E. Señora Vibes is a spicy lifestyle show celebrating the dynamic experiences of women 40 plus. According to ChatGPT, Señora Vibes typically refers to an aura or demeanor that gives off an elegant, sophisticated, and mature vibe, often associated with older women or señoras. It's about carrying oneself with confidence and grace, exuding a sense of wisdom and experience. So if this sounds like you, come embrace your Señora Vibes with me, and let's explore together our Señora era fearlessly and excited. Friends, welcome back to Señora Vibes. This is part 2 of the episode with Kate Cohen, the Washington Post contributing columnist and the author of We Have Little Faith, Why I Stopped Pretending to Believe, and maybe you should too. It is a continuation of the episode before this one. It's a great episode on a topic that I've been wanting to bring to you for a long time, and I finally found someone that just resonated so much with me. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I struggle with the most as a mom who's raising boys that way, and like trying not to think of it and I try, so for me, I'm very clear on my convictions, and I'm very clear on what how I want my boys to think about things, and my husband and I are both the same way. But one thing that I get a lot of pushback on is, well, church gives you community. Church gives you comfort whenever you need the comfort. I lost my mom about 4 or 5 months ago, and I think everybody was sending prayers and saying, oh, she's in a better place. She's in a better place. That kind of thing, without knowing who I am and what I think.
Sure.
And so one of my episodes was like, here's how you can talk to somebody and give comfort to somebody who doesn't believe and who doesn't want a prayer, but wants your love and wants your support and wants your well wishes, right?
Yeah.
And I just think a lot of people just assume, right, that you lost a loved one, you immediately think of them, they're in heaven, they're with God now, and they're in a better place. And I think it was a real test for me as a woman who has grown up since I was 19 with with doubts, and then like definitely by the age of 25 I wasn't believing anymore, and then my kids came at 27 and 32, and then I'm growth and like learning from them and learning more as I went along, and just my convictions just got stronger. But I think I just got to a point where I realized when my mother was passing away that I really didn't need that comfort of a church. I didn't need the comfort of a community in that sense. I think there was a solace that just came from knowing that my mother was not suffering anymore, and she was okay. She was fine, being cremated. I didn't see it as, I really, really didn't see it as like she's in a better place. I really didn't. I just thought she's just not suffering anymore. It was very, very organic. It was very natural. It wasn't supernatural at all. And it just really cemented for me in my mind that I really just don't believe that there's a God, because I didn't send her at the end of the day and like, Mom, go with God, or finally here I am, finally becoming a believer. No, it just cemented more for me that really there wasn't a God, and she was suffering needlessly, and it was good that she died, because she's not in this place where she's in so much pain anymore.
Yeah.
But it could either go both ways, right? It could go either like you become more faithful because you want that comfort. You want to know that your mom's going to a better place and that she's going to be with God or with Jesus. Or you become more like me, that just cemented her belief in nothing and said, good, I'm glad she's not suffering anymore. And I'm grateful for having that moment with her and loving her and kissing her and telling her that I loved her. And that to me was the most important thing. Not where she's going in an afterlife.
Yes.
That doesn't matter.
Right.
At all.
You're really talking about two things, I guess. And one of them is the comfort of community. And the other is the comfort of imagining that against all of our observed experience, that somehow we still live even after we die. So that two different kinds of comfort. And I completely agree with you about the second one. I don't feel that I need that. I haven't lost my parents yet. I'll get back to you. But I really feel like that it's not going to somehow suddenly occur to me that I wish that they were lurking in the afterlife. But for the community one, I think that's a little bit harder. I think that's a little bit harder, and maybe not in even necessarily in moments like this, but I think it's important to have a space that's not your home, that's not your work, where, you know, you have a shared set of values that you build a community around. And I think there's other places to do that, you know, places where you might volunteer, or you might, let's say you're into theater and you have a community theater that you're a part of, or you're a musician and you have that, or you join
a book club,
a book group.
like a book
yes,
club.
exactly. Or something like that. So there are other ways to get it, but there is something about religion. I have to give them credit. I always say organized religion. It is, there's a lot of problems with it, but it is organized.
It is.
And that organization is huge. And I know like a couple of amazing, like smaller secular organizations. I've been to speak now at some incredible places, and I can tell how much work they have to put into keeping a speaker series going, keeping volunteers all organized and scheduled, and all that, to provide all of the things that a church or a synagogue or a mosque provides.
It does. It provides the church ladies are the first ones to help you when you have a caregiver, and you can't take.
They have it worked out.
They have it really, really worked out. And I think that's the part where they are so, that's why they infiltrate themselves so well in the community, because they find that need. They find those people who need those services. They don't have food in the pantry. They're the first ones to provide the food in the pantry. I work with a lot of women who take care of their parents, because I talk to them about how, how difficult it is to have caregiver burnout. Well, a lot of them depend on their church to come through for them and say, hey, don't worry, I've got your mom. I'll take her to the doctor. Don't worry about her. I'll come and do her massage, or I'll make sure that she's got her medicine. And that's a huge comfort as a daughter, to say, hey, somebody's going to take over. But that's where the church comes in. And you're right. They have it down to a T.
They have, and I know, I really think it's going to be important. Well, for me, thinking about as I do, the fact that there are, I believe, many, many, many more non-believers out there than we know about.
Yeah.
So thinking about that, and thinking about the idea that possibly that population is growing, I feel like there has to be one of two things has to happen. Either we're going to have to start figuring out ways to fund and organize and keep going this kind of like community organization. And I'm sure there's a few dozen of them across the country, but that's not enough, No, right. So that could happen, or I don't know. I maybe this is a crazy thing to think, but I would love it if some more progressive churches and synagogues and mosques could acknowledge that there are members who don't believe. Wouldn't it be an amazing thing if you could be a part of a community that was tolerant of the fact that your vision of Jesus, for example, is of a wonderful human philosopher, activist, and not as the divine. Wouldn't it be amazing if there could be a support group within a church or a
In that.
synagogue or something.
But I think that's impossible because I think their help or their service is contingent upon you believing or participating
Yeah,
in
maybe.
services or doing prayers with them. I think that's the difficult part because
Right.
I think if there was such a thing, they would use that opportunity to proselytize or convert you or make
That's
sure that
true.
you go to their church. That would be the ideal situation. But I think ultimately, and this is something that I've thought about in my head, what if AI or a service or an app, was able to coordinate those things, those services for yourself, or coordinate or communicate or tie you in with services around the community
Yeah.
that can support those things that typically the church takes care of, right?
I
don't
mean,
know.
I do
Of that.
Yeah, I do think that social media and just the internet in general has been a huge factor
Huge, yeah.
in, well, here we are talking, right? Or you Googled whatever you, or
Yeah, I did a
hashtag
hashtag,
atheist
yeah.
and book, and there, and I
Yes.
mean, it's been huge. And just to have a person in a small town in Oklahoma who can be connected to a community, far from where he sits is just an amazing thing. But I also really believe in that, like, human bodies in a room kind of thing. There's something about that's not replaceable. Yes, use social media to make that first connection. Use social media or AI or whatever it is to help with the organization. But at some point, you want to be in a room with another, person.
Right,
I think.
right. IRL,
I
right?
don't know.
In real life.
I do think that there's just something magical about that.
Right. And I think
human
one
bodies.
of the ways that we can do, like you said, it's like the way we find each other and then connect with each other and then create meetups from that so that there is human
Yes.
connection. And I think that's where religion really comes through and takes the cake, is to create a human connection with somebody who's needing connection at that time.
Yes.
Even when we do need connection, there's some of us who I do need that connection, but I'm not going to go to the church for that connection. I'm probably going to go to my brothers, my sister, my dad, other people close to me. But if there's people that don't have access to that in immediate family, of course a church comes in and takes on that role and takes on those parts and takes on some of those responsibilities that a lot of women are facing, especially as we're taking care of our parents, taking care of our kids. Like, some of us are in the sandwich generation where our parents are becoming elderly. There's a lot of that going on. They're sick all the time. We're constantly taking care of them. We're taking care of kids. We are burning on both ends, right?
Yeah.
And who's supporting us? Who's giving us that support? So we have to find support out there for ourselves and other women like ourselves. And that's why when I connected with you, I went immediately to look at everything that you had, your books, your Twitter, if you had any, podcasts, or if you had recorded anything, because I think it's important for women like us who are kind of out here in a sea of a lot of believers and Christians and Catholics in my world, to find women like ourselves that don't necessarily fit into those paradigms, but that can find a connection within each other, and make that connection and reach out to each other. And that's why I'm so appreciative that you're here today, Kate, because I look for that, I look for that in those women who are facing those same challenges that I face, having those conversations with my kids, talking to them about, how I feel and why I feel the way that I do. And then allowing them to question everything and to make sure that if I'm, needing to be questioned as well, for them to give me that feedback as well.
Yeah.
And I think
it's
that's
an ongoing conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's what I really want to bring to moms who are out there. A lot of them who follow a Christian ideology, they don't allow their children to question anything. And they say either you believe or you don't, or you're out of my house. And that breaks my heart, because I meet a lot of those children that are being thrown out of their house for one reason or another, or maybe because they just told their mom, well, I just don't know that I believe in God anymore. And they're out of the house. They're not as cherished as they typically are. And so that's where my conversation comes in, because those are the kids that my kids hang out with. And I want to embrace them, but I'm not their mother, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
warmth that
That's
comes
really
from
rough.
mom. And that's
Well,
very hard.
it's really rough. What did your mother, were you honest with your mother?
Yes, I was. So my parents raised us very liberal. They were Catholic, but they were what you would consider cafeteria Catholic. They only did all
Right.
the holidays like Easter, Christmas. We had the whole thing. We did all the rosaries. I learned how to say the rosary, and I did my confirmation, my first communion.
Right.
My husband and I actually met at a Catholic university, at St. Thomas University. That's very nice, a nice Catholic university. We got married in that church because that's where we met, and we got married at the little chapel. But we've been able to manage this life of ours, you know, without any of that. But to say that I've been open and honest and out of in the world talking about it, I haven't been, but I feel like I want to be more, just because I want to
Yeah.
provide support, kind of like how you provided that support for me as I found you online. I want to become that support for another young mom out there that's, you know, wanting to go
That's
the route
great.
that we did, you and I.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And I really, the more that I have been talking about being an atheist, the more that I've been going out and, um, giving book talks and meeting people, the more it's clear to me that there's just so many people out there who are kind of keeping it very politely to themselves. And
Yeah.
I, I really, I felt like if I told the truth about what I believed, that I would be rupturing relationships, that I would
Yes.
be breaking relationships, that I would be disconnecting from people. And what I realized was, when I started to be more honest, is actually when I started to build better relationships and build connections with people. And I'm sure there's people who avoided me after that point. But the people that didn't, the people who remained in my life, knew me so much better. I didn't have this barrier between me and them. And many of them would end up revealing similar things about themselves. So just because someone is wearing a little cross on their neck or is sitting, next to you, I mean, it's hilarious to think now that when I was a little kid, I would look around in synagogue and I would really think, okay, I am the only one who doesn't believe. Of course I wasn't the only one. Of course I wasn't, but it's still, I have to remind myself that you can't tell by looking, and there's a way in which if it's safe to do, if it's safe to do, and I really emphasize that in my book, because I don't want people risking anything unnecessarily, but if it's safe to do and you can take that leap with someone and tell them what you really feel without judgment or without I don't know, without attitude, just honestly.
Do it.
I think it can be revelatory. It can just be, I mean, obviously, and this was my story to begin with, absolutely with your kids, absolutely with your kids,
Yes.
absolutely with your close family members, but even beyond that, and as the book ends a little bit in a more political vein, I feel like, the more we can be honest with our neighbors, with our representatives, etc., that's gonna help also.
Yeah. No, I think there's a tide, and I think the tide is turning. Younger people are being, to me, I feel like there is going to be a change as soon as the boomer generation starts to move on, and more young people come into places of authority or influence. I think things might start to change, and I find that that's going to be more refreshing. Hopefully for the better, But Kate, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me a little bit of
Oh,
your
it's a
time.
pleasure.
I will definitely recommend this book to anybody who wants to just hear a little bit more about, your journey, how you came through your journey, as well as, my journey. And I connected to that so much because I feel like you were speaking to me in a lot of ways, for the things that
That's great.
I'm challenged with, and why I, stay quiet or didn't want to talk about it. I just didn't want to be, I guess, ostracized or judged or whatever. But I think you make a very good point that once you start living through that authenticity and that sense of yourself, you're giving other people that opportunity to also come out and feel empowered by that, right? And I feel very strong in my convictions with my family and my boys, and how I'm raising them, and how I've created a really beautiful partnership with my husband. But it's always been very closed off. And I think the best example for us as women, non-believing women, is art by example. So if you come across me and I treat you with compassion, with love, and attention, and I treat you as a human being, as somebody who deserves love, and I hope that that's a testament to women like us, who they might think are unethical,
Yes.
or in some ways sinful, ugly, nasty, working without morals. And I think I want you all to just kind of keep an eye on how we behave, and I want you to see, who we are as women, and what we do for others, and how we treat others. And you will notice that we're just going to embrace you and love you and take care of you, because that's just who we are.
Right. And if we can do that and be the sort of connected, warm, responsible, ethical people that we want to be, that we hope to be, and also be honest about being atheists and non-believers, I feel like that is going to go a long way to kind of taking the scary part out of that word. And
I agree.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Hey, where can my listeners follow you? Where can they get your book? Because I heard your book. I got an Audible, and every time I'm in my car, and your voice is so soothing and sweet. So I was like, oh, I felt good, riding in my car, listening to your. But where can they find you?
Well, any bookstore, Amazon. It's called We of Little Faith. You can go to katecohen.net. And it has all the links to everything. I also really love it when people ask their libraries to get my book.
Oh, good.
So We Have Little Faith, katecohen.net. But you can get it anywhere. You can order it from anywhere. And I did the audiobook, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm also a columnist for the Washington Post. So if anybody wants to,
we get your columns there in the Houston Chronicle.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes,
awesome.
yes. We read your.
So there's there's every once in a while there's a piece about atheism, but I write about all kinds of other things too. My last piece was about a school book ban, actually, in the town I grew up in. So you can follow me there too.
Thank you so much for your time, Kate. It's been amazing, and thank you so much for writing that book. And I felt connected to it, and I'm just grateful to have you on my podcast. And I hope my listeners get little nuggets of inspiration from you.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's so good to hear.
Thank you so much, Kate. Bye.
Bye.
Friends, before we go, I'm asking a huge favor of you. Please review the podcast. You can go to Apple or you can go to Spotify. Share the episodes with your friends and support my sponsors. Furthermore, I'd love to connect with you when you visit my website, www.aliciaelatasi.com. Here you'll see that I can help you set up your very own podcast. You'll have access to my curated travel itineraries. Additionally, my caregiver's handbook, something I'm very proud of. There's even something there on creating passive income. Oh, and let's not forget, I can help you buy or sell your home. So check me out at www.aliciaelatasi.com. And remember, the key to anything is execution.